Hello, my spooky friends. It is Stacy. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to you and yours. In today's look, I am doing a demented reindeer transformation. The backstory in my mind was that someone got bit by a reindeer instead of gotten run over by a reindeer, and this is the virus that's going to mutate the human anatomy to form into a reindeer. Now, I am sculpting on a head cast, but if you do not have one, that is okay, because a fix to this is to go to your local craft store, pick up a styrofoam head, cover it with wood glue or Elmer's glue, and sculpt off of this. It's easy to do this look because it drapes over the face, so it's not form-fitting. Just as long as you can get the average shape, you could do that. But you say, Stacy, I don't even want to do that. What can I do to create this look? Well, it's absolutely easy to build it as you go, but do keep in mind that in this tutorial, I am using things that I have already used in past looks, and that's why I say save everything that you pre-make for a while, because you never know when you might turn it into something that you need. I use fingers from an old look to create the antlers for this, but I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have a great Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a wonderful New Year, and we'll just go ahead and get into the tutorial. To begin, I'm using a gray plastic bag and I'm marking out the shape that I need and getting that cut up, and then I take a glue stick and I go over the area that I want this to stay onto the cast. This is going to help us lift the prosthetic later. So if you have to use liquid latex, do that, but a glue stick will work just fine. And once I place this in, I'm going to lift the edges so I have more of a foundation and a base to lay down all these objects. So I just fold those over and glue them into place. The reason I chose to use a gray bag instead of clear or white is because I had the idea, like from the movie The Thing, where the stuff is still using the parts of the human anatomy. So this is going to add to that gray matter brain look and have a different look instead of just using all black. I'm taking masking tape and I'm going over the edge. This is going to make it a bit more secure, and it's also going to lift that back piece so that you have the objects like the Christmas ornaments that you can place up against all the other elements, and it gives it a rise and a little bit more height up into the cranial of the skull. With liquid latex and cotton strips, I go over the masking tape area. This is going to give that skin texture effect, so it won't be as smooth as the masking tape. Simply just dip the cotton into the liquid latex and pour liquid latex a little bit at a time because it does dry fairly quickly. Now, taking a sponge that I do not care anything about because liquid latex will ruin brushes and sponges, I go in and I tap in liquid latex to get that pushed down into the design. So I tap and pull, tap and pull, and I put that into place, and this is going to help stabilize this prosthetic piece as well and allow the center to be pliable and bendable. That's why it's easy to do this if you're going to cast on a mannequin head or do it as you build it up, and it's also more comfortable. Now I'm just taking a tool that I dipped in latex and I'm making sure that my edges are a little bit smaller and not as big, so when the latex has not dried, you have a little bit of time to manipulate it to form some shapes. And again, for stabilization, cotton and liquid latex over the back of the lip from the masking tape. With some random pieces of cotton, I'm dipping that into the liquid latex and randomly putting that inside on the gray bag. And what this is going to manipulate is the fat tissue from the body. And so you'll have that contrast between the red and the white. But this is to make it look just a little bit more gross and pull the human element into the animal element for a transformation. The teeth for this look, I am using an old set of teeth that I have sitting inside a prosthetic. This is saving me time and money because they're already painted, they're yellow, they're glossy, and they have a little bit of blood on it. So I take the time to pull these out. They're fairly easy to pull out and store for later. I just had this sitting around in a box, so I go through that box and I always try to look at the stuff that I've used previously to help me with another look. And I take the bottom of the teeth and I just tap that into the liquid latex, and then I push them into the cotton and making sure that it's still wet and not dry when you do this process. If it is, you can secure it with more liquid latex. You can also glue the teeth in after the fact, but I'm trying to keep this prosthetic light because it does drape over the head and it's only secured by some pins and some glue, not a strong adhesive. So for the fingers, I made these about a year ago for a look of a demon, and this is cotton, aluminum foil, liquid latex, and eyeshadow. And if you'd like to see how I made these fingers and I'm turning these into antlers, I'll have that linked into the description below where you can see where I made that look and how I created the fingers. But just a little bit of glue and cutting them into an angle, I place them on the other fingers so I get that antler look to it. And also it saves time and money because I didn't have to create them or paint them. These antlers are pliable because the cotton and the liquid latex with the aluminum foil, so you can still manipulate and bend them to form into the direction that you need them to be. So I think it's very versatile to have something like this. That way you can manipulate it as you need it in your look. I made 2 sets of 3-prong antlers, and I'm also going to use the leftover single fingers and use those randomly throughout the look to make it cohesive. To attach the antlers, I dip them into liquid latex and I get them secure by pressing them onto the plastic bag, and then I take several different pieces of cotton, dip that into liquid latex to secure it at the base. With some more liquid latex, I take that and press it into the cotton just to make sure that it stays firm and it gets pushed down and it matches the seam and the outside of the design. And because I'm using the gray bag to mimic a gray matter stretch, I am using an old piece of exposed brain I did for another look. This is gelatin, and then once I have an idea of where I want it against the horns, I put in another set of antlers, again going back in with some cotton and liquid latex in order to make the base secure. If you're wanting to add an exposed brain element in this design, I will link the video to the exposed brain tutorial that will show you how to mix color gelatin and use a brain mold. I use more cotton to build up in the center of this small piece of brain because I wanted to give it more height and you can see it better in the design. And I dip that gelatin piece of brain into liquid latex and to get that secure, and I just hold it down for a few minutes. And if you're looking to learn how to make, store, and color gelatin, I will have a link below so you can see the tutorial on how to mimic and create gelatin pieces pre-made to save you some time. And with more cotton and liquid latex and some gelatin pieces, I go in and make sure that I have a edge that's a little bit smoother and it's not as dramatic at the edge of the spraying. I secure the rest of the horns and the antlers using single pieces randomly throughout and securing the bottom of them with more cotton and liquid latex. Now, I created these ears several years back and I have never had a chance to use them. They are masking tape, cotton, and liquid latex, so they're still pliable, so I thought they would add to the reindeer element. So I put those into place by pressing them into liquid latex and pressing them around the area that had the most cotton and where it would actually push and be separated a little bit from the design. I didn't want to make it so busy that you couldn't tell that there were ears. And having that in place, I go in and put the rest of my teeth in, and I give the whole entire design a little bit of powder once it dries to get rid of the tackiness. It's a good practice to have. And going in with my Cannon grease paint, I am using this to mimic the skin portion, so I'm painting the outside of the tape in the cotton and liquid latex, so once it's against the skin it looks like it's being coming from within. It has a better transition look to it. And these palettes I've had for a very long time. If you don't know who Greg Cannom is, he is the man that created the makeup for Benjamin buttons. They last a long time. They're very versatile. You can mix them, and I just got tired of using all of my foundation, but you can still use foundation for this. There's nothing wrong with that. This is just what I chose to use for this one because I wanted you to see that there were other products out there other than foundation. But if you're looking for something that stays and has the ability to be painted and mixed a lot easier, the Cannom face palettes are an easy one to use. Now for the blood, I'm taking the rest of the brain pieces from the gelatin and I'm cutting them up smaller and taking seconds at a time into the microwave. I'm placing that randomly throughout this look. Some pieces I want to be coagulated and I really want it to look very wet, so the idea is that that's in the center is a bit more wet because it's still closer to the body, and that's on the outside, like the antlers, some of the teeth, and some of the blood will be a little bit drier. So that's the reason and why I color things the way that I do, and especially for this look. Now this gelatin, once I have it at a certain level, it was chunky, so I was able to take it and peel it and push it around with my hands to get it in very precise areas that I need it to be. And this is just a fun thing to do, just play around with it and have fun, make it your own. I love to use gelatin because it stops you from having to use any running liquid blood. So if you're looking to make this and wear it throughout the night and it still stays shiny, it's nice and red, this is the way to do it, is to color your gelatin in order to mimic blood. Now for the teeth area, since it is the darkest and the driest, I go back in with my Skin Illustrator SFX alcohol paint and I get that into the outer edges, anything I want to look darker. Now I'm using glue and some Christmas ornaments I picked up and I'm placing them randomly throughout this design, just making sure that they are secure and next to things, so if you bump it, it will not fall off, because sometimes that's the way glue does, even the super glue, because there's so much height in this design. I just make sure that I stack them up against each other. And I found these little hangers that I wanted to make this really big and bold and festive, so I put those on the edges and I can take those off if I need to, and they do move around. Now it's time to remove the prosthetic piece, and I'm lifting up the liquid latex, and up underneath I push flour so you get rid of that tackiness. And this is where that tape comes in handy, in the fact that you didn't use liquid latex for up underneath in the entire design. The only thing you're going to have to remove is the outer edge, and that stops you from moving this entire piece, so it's a bit more secure even removing it from the cast. You can use baby powder, foundation powder. Today I'm using flour, but I find that it's best to remove a cast working on each side before you try to remove it up off the center, because you do not want it to pull. You can use baby powder, talc powder, or foundation powder or flour, which is what I'm using today, but I like to use that and go on the outer edge of each side so it lifts up in the center and doesn't pull. For the application, I put gel into the center of my hair, let it dry, and then I pushed a washable Elmer's glue stick into it. This is going to help it stay a little bit more secure. And with some spirit gum, I go over the area that the piece is going to lay, giving it some time to get a little tacky. Spirit gum will stay tacky until you apply a prosthetic to it. And then once that's into place, I hold it down for several seconds to make sure that it is locked into place and it's not going to go anywhere. And for a little bit of added security, I take some bobby pins and push it on the back. That's what that masking tape ledge was for, so it would actually be able to secure it a little bit better to the hair. And going back in with the Cannom foundation, I use the same color to match the outer portion of this prosthetic. I then took some gray grease paint on a sponge and I tapped that onto the exposed brain. I wanted it to match a little bit more to the gray bag that I used and that give it more definition and it pop against all the other elements. Now, I wasn't happy with the transition into the mouth from the prosthetic, so in order to make it look a little bit better and to fill in the gap, I took some tissue paper and I formed that into the area where I had a gap, and it's also easier to form tissue paper around the lips, and I used spirit gum up underneath it and on top of it, and then I painted it with the same color from the Cannom palette. Here is the final look. I hope you guys enjoyed this one today. If you'd like to see sneak peeks, behind the scenes footage, or vote on my next look, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Those links are below. And if you need something a little bit more stable than the hanging Christmas balls, try the sleigh bells. They worked out just fine. If you're looking for more fun, affordable makeup, please consider subscribing. I have some sculpting coming up you do not want to miss out. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I'll see you guys next year. Bye.